What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to House Divided on a Tuesday. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That's Chad Hastings. Hopefully, all of our technical issues have been put to bed. But literally, as we were going live, my overhead lighting just went out. It's been an interesting last 30 minutes in the Ketchum household. Do us a solid. All lighting issues aside, hit that thumbs up button for us, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, do those things. They help the algorithm, they help the channel, it helps us grow. No, I'm not parking the Lambo in the garage. I'm trying to figure out all kinds of issues. Primarily, I just want the words coming out of my mouth to match my lips so we don't look like a 70s kung fu movie. It's just what we're dealing with today. As everybody joins the show and jumps in the Specs chat, those of you doing this live, we thank you. We encourage your interactions, and we love some super chats. We stayed on a little bit longer yesterday just because we just kept getting super chats. So we're open to you guys giving us money, but we're going to talk some Texas football straight out of the gate. We've got a couple of interesting Texas football topics to get into today, one of which I think, Chad, assuming the time works out, we got to do the defensive tackle thing just because there's some funny stuff going on. So we'll get to that. But first, we tease with a headline. We tease with the thumbnail. Is Texas on the verge of getting a commitment? I think so. Like today, think so. Don't want to ruin anything, but I think it's a safe guess to assume that it's probably one of the guys that visited this weekend.
You want to answer this chat for Cal and Catch? They threw it in before the show.
We have some intel that there's a very good chance that a commitment will go down later on this afternoon. So again, I don't want to ruin a kid's moment. There's a number of guys that I think visited Texas this weekend that I think are in consideration. I think Caleb Chester and Michael Terry are the two most obvious ones. Caleb Chester, the defensive back out of the Fort Bend area, comes out of the visit, does an interview with Jason Sukumo yesterday, mentions that Texas is number one on his list. And Chad, we've had this conversation now a few times in the last few shows that we've done, where it's one thing to say that a team or a school is in your top group of schools. It's another when you're bold enough to just come out and say, yeah, that's my jam. That's my number one. So we know Caleb Chester has done that. Michael Terry would be another candidate as a guy that to keep an eye on. He's scheduled to visit Texas A&M this week. We know that he had a great visit at Texas. I had a source tell me yesterday, multiple sources yesterday. It's weird. It's Tuesday, but I keep thinking it's Wednesday. So conversations that I had on Monday feel 2 days ago. And in reality, they were like 12 hours ago. I had multiple sources tell me that there was a very succinct feeling that Texas is now a heavy leader for Michael Terry going into the A&M visit, that what happened this weekend made a big impact. So yes, part of what we're telling you at the beginning of the show today is be on the lookout for a commitment later today. And, honestly, it keeps the conversation going kind of Monday through Friday this week. We are just now in the middle of the most important 2.5, 3 weeks that remain in the college football recruiting window. These official visits this summer, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, they will largely define what happens in the 2025 recruiting class. And I think we had a question yesterday, Chad, where somebody asked, did I think they'd be at 5.5 commitments? Wasn't it a buy or sell where would I have them going over 5.5 by June 23rd? I didn't buy that. But today could be kind of the first wave of commitments coming out of these big 3 weekends, the first of which for Texas was Friday and Saturday.
I got a question for you, Catch, kind of in general on the recruiting part. If y'all have questions too, throw them in there. Get the Specs chat rolling. We're climbing up towards 300 folks already in there. And remember, if you get us a super chat, it will go right to the top of the list. We got some other things to take care of today. I got to give Catch some props before the show is over. But real quick right now, let me see if I can make you thirsty with Deep Eddy vodka. The tasting room is out there in beautiful Dripping Springs. If you haven't been out there, they've got 8 flavors of vodka in all kinds of forms for you. You want some of those cocktails? There they are. You want some of you want to sip a little bit on some flights? They can do that for you as well. Make your plans for this weekend or an upcoming weekend. Thursdays and Fridays, 11 to 7, 11 to 5 on Saturday, and Sunday, 12 to 5. And like I've told you, they are cooking us up an OB cocktail. Can't wait to get out there and give that a try. Shout out to everybody out at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. They are big UT fans. They are looking forward to this season. We're 20 days away from Texas as an official SEC member today. So if you want to jump in the chat and talk about all this recruiting stuff, please do. Catch and somebody, Michael, jumping in saying, just joined, so expect a commitment today.
I mean, probably, yeah. I think that we've got it on good intel that there's a commitment that's expected today. The thing is, like, I don't want to be so ironclad about it that Chad and I used this expression with Chad earlier today in how do we choose our wording? We want to give ourselves a little bit of runway. You never completely know. A guy can change his mind. I don't know that a commitment in this case would have been, it's not, there's nobody on the list. You can point to a guy like Zion Williams and say, oh, he's going to announce on July 4th. There's not anything on the books for today, but our anticipation that there will be a commitment later today, which would bring Chad the Longhorns up to 11. Yeah. Nate, I feel you on the super blue chip question.
Nice try. It's a good try. Hey, nothing wrong with that.
If I answer some of these questions, I'm going to tell you who it is, and I'm just going to feel like an asshole. And I do that enough on a daily basis. I don't need to be lured into, feeling bad about myself. So, I think I've given hints on this. The primary hint being that, I think it's a safe bet that it would have been somebody. It's not going to be anybody that visited on the 14th. It's not going to be anybody that visits on the 21st.
Yeah.
Right. So the smart idea at this point, I think, is to look at the guys who've already taken official visits. And it's probably fair to assume that'll be one of those guys. There's been buzz about a commitment for 48 hours. Yeah, which kind of coincides when guys are leaving town and they've either told Peyton says, is every day just commitment looming day now? No, Peyton, not in this case. Although I would say if you go back a couple of days ago on Monday, the buzz on this, on there being a possible commitment, has been looming for 48 hours now. And this is, I think there are a couple of names. Look, we've mentioned, keep an eye on Caleb Chester, keep an eye on Michael Terry. Of the 2 guys that visited this weekend, those are the names that were most buzzy coming out of the visits. When you think about, the rest of the guys that visited, I don't think there was a strong sense that Texas was their overwhelming leader. With those 2 guys, there's a definite sense that Texas leads. Chester told us that Texas leads. Michael Terry kind of danced around it, but man, I'm telling you, a lot of people yesterday coming out of that visit indicating that the Longhorns are a strong leader there.
All right, before we get to my question, Catch, we do have a little bit of intel on something else coming in. Rex says he's committed to lunch at Thundercloud, and we should respect his decision. Rex, we do. Hope you have a good lunch.
I miss Thundercloud in this area.
That sounds tasty. It does sound pretty tasty. Catch, I just had a kind of a philosophical question for you. For whoever this recruit happens to be, if I'm a recruit and I was just at Texas and I'm going somewhere else, I'm going to go to A&M, I'm going to go to Arkansas, I'm going to Tennessee, I'm going to wherever else. If I've got 14th and 21st plans, give me the logic and the thought process of why would I commit before those trips? Is it to get the attention of those schools in some way? What's the thought process there on why you would throw a commit down to Texas or anywhere else if you've got other trips coming right up?
Because you want to lock in your spot. You know where you're going to go. And there have been cases. Miles Davis signs with A&M last year, but he privately commits to Texas on his visit. So there was a lot of buzz. There was a lot of speculation. When's it going to happen? And the next thing, and he's taking visits. And then the next thing you know, he and Texas just kind of, the relationship dissolved. And he ends up going to Texas A&M. Good player, hard-hitting safety, a guy that I liked as a state 50 type prospect. But, sometimes windows close on guys. And I think usually when you see commitments in a situation like this, and I'm definitely not saying that this is the case with anybody at Texas, but a lot of times coaches will say, look, you know what? I'll use Michael Terry as an example because we were having this conversation on the recruiting show yesterday, Chad. What do we think? The plan is at tight end.
Yeah.
They've got a commitment in Emory Winston. They brought in 2 this week. They had California tight end plus Michael Terry. They've told, we want to use you like Jatavian Sanders. So they're not coming out and maybe necessarily and using the tight end word, but what was Jatavian Sanders? He was tight end. But they're bringing in Keody Armstrong. They're bringing in Nick Townsend. So there are tight ends that are coming in on these next couple of visits. There can only be so many tight end spots. So, and I would say the same thing. You can look at a guy like Caleb Chester and say, okay, at the defensive back position, they've got guys coming in the next couple of weeks. It's hard to necessarily know what the order of those spots will be, how many are open. So, I think in a situation like this, it really is about, if this is where you want to go, then go ahead and lock that in. And this is about the time we're going to start seeing that happen. You look across the state, I noticed Texas Tech and TCU picked up tight ends in the last couple of days. This is when I think this stuff starts to happen. So, probably with the biggest of the big, the DeCorian Moores are going to finish this thing out. But even with a guy like DeCorian Moore, I've thought, well, is he really going to take that trip to Oregon? Because you do worry, I think, if you have official visits on the last weekend, that kids have been places on the 31st, the 7th, the 14th. And sometimes if those visits aren't viewed critical, a guy will cancel a visit and either say, hey, I'll make that up later in the year, or I'm just tired. I kind of know where I want to go. So every situation is a little bit different. I think the main one at this time of the year is get in while there's still a seat on the lifeboat, period. If 25 people can fit in, all of these guys kind of know where they stand inside of that 25. And that's at this point, that's just a guideline. That's actually a fake number now. Nobody even cares about 25 because there's not a 25-man limit. It's kind of a ballpark of class sizes, I think, moving forward. If Texas wants to take 25 in any given year because of the portal, they'll be able to. But yeah, that's my main thinking on answering that specific question.
All right, we're headed up towards 400 folks in the Specs chat. If you want to get in there, let's give Specs their love, and then we'll get you a little bit of breaking information that happened earlier this morning involving the Texas schedule. In my opinion, Texas fans, you got a huge piece of good news.
I know what you're talking about
your schedule. Stay tuned. 15 seconds away.
Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
We catch. You know what tastes real good in the morning? Bacon does.
Oh, it's the best.
Look at what they put out today. Here's all your game times that we know, Texas fans. Go to that second column, fourth one down. Catch, we are locked in for Texas at Arkansas at 11 a.m. Texas fans, in my opinion, could not have asked for a better time for that game. That to me is what you pray for, and they got it. Would you agree?
Yeah, and the question that I was running in my head was this. Because I'm not the biggest 11 a.m. fan. I will say for our purposes, it's nice to get the day over with time to spare. Mm-hmm. So, you and I will go back to back 11 a.m. Florida and Arkansas. And by 6 o'clock, hey, we can go hang out with our families a little bit. It's not a terrible thing. Would you trade the 11 o'clock Florida game? Meaning you could have had it at 2:30. You could have had it at 6, 7, 8. Let's say, would you have traded a primetime Florida game to play the Arkansas game at 11? And I think you would.
Yeah, I'd trade a lot of things.
You'd make a trade. Give it if you're a primetime guy like I am. I like the games at night. You trade that and play the Florida game at 11 if it means you get Arkansas at 11. I actually think that's really important. If that said 7 p.m. instead of 11 a.m.,
catch.
It just makes that game a little bit more nervous.
Yep, 6 or 6:30 or 7 or whatever. If I was a Texas fan, catch, I tell you what, I'd start the game against Kentucky and Mississippi State down 3-0 if you let me play at Arkansas at 11 a.m. I would. That's absolutely what I would do. I think that's terrific. So that information is out there today if you want to check it out. But I think that's the biggest gift on the schedule. So now for the whole season, it's just 3 11 a.m. kicks. It's just Michigan.
Well, you don't know that for certain because
Arkansas.
A number of the games are flexed out. So
no, we do. Though look at the bottom, catch. Flex says 2:30 to 7.
Oh, okay.
So that means those are the
Excuse the hell out of me.
Only 11 a.m. kicks. See, this is the beauty of the SEC. The SEC knows that 11 a.m. is not the preferred window. They'll have certain games go there, but that just tells you that they know they've got other games they want to showcase.
I wonder what's going on the weekend of Texas, Arkansas, where they viewed that game as –
I know.
Same thing with Georgia. With Florida. What is it? What's going on? I'm curious. What's going on those weekends? We're this far out. Because that could be a top – this could very easily be a top 5 Texas team going on the road at Arkansas. That would be a big national game.
And catch, if I'm an Arkansas fan, I am capital L livid today that they would already put that out. I know Arkansas is not some elite right now, but the return of that rivalry, the chance to bring up old memories of shootouts and presidential declarations and show highlights of James Street and all that stuff, and you're going to just stamp it with an 11 a.m. We're 81 days till the first weekend. So we're a long way from that game. And we now know that the A&M game, based on that flex thing they threw out, the A&M game will be either 2:30 or later. Duh. To me, that's got to be a night game. But catch, I thought Fayetteville was a night game for sure. I thought that was a 6 or 6:30 kick on SEC Network, no doubt. No doubt.
So those 11 a.m. games, those are, I guess that could be an ESPN game, but that could also be an SEC Network game, right?
Yeah, let's see if they threw the network in here. It says ABC or ESPN for Florida and for Arkansas. I guess that's what they're doing. Okay. They want to put a game up against that, Fox game that's competitive.
I got to be honest, this is proof that my eyes just aren't very good because I now see the ESPN or ABC, but that just looked like black gibberish there for a little bit. It was like, I can't read that font, but I can read 11 a.m. Yeah, I see that now. Same thing with the network TBA. I guess I should have run the fine print. Can I tell you the thing that for me stood out the most besides the Arkansas game? That's the headline. That is tomorrow morning if you're you're walking to the elevator having a conversation about the game time windows, 11 a.m. Arkansas is a gift. It just is.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that of the 12-game regular season schedule, there's only an opportunity for 5 primetime games. You get La Monroe and UTSA.
That's a good point.
In the second half of the schedule, you have 3 games that are flexed out.
Yeah.
So I'm used to Texas. I don't know I'd have to go back and look. Doesn't it feel like Texas, though, plays a lot more night games previously in the Big 12? Maybe this is a new change. This happens when you're in the SEC.
Yeah. Well, no, that's what we talked about, right?
Always in the primetime slot.
But also the SEC thinks of a different. When they hear primetime, they think of it differently. For years, they're an afternoon kind of conference. They love the 2:30 and 3 o'clocks and all that stuff. They love middle of the day catch more than they love anything else. In special circumstances, some like the Iron Bowl has been pushed to a night game. I think this new version is going to force them to have more high-profile night games. But you bring up a great point. The fact that we already know that those 2 non-cons are 2 of your prime timers, and then those other 3 are going to just kind of float. That's crazy. Like, what if you get all the way to the game in College Station and it's the only night game Texas will play all year? In conference.
The only in-conference night game. It's possible.
Right. It could happen. I mean, I don't know if I would do it. I wouldn't dial it up that way.
I got to believe that the Georgia-Texas game will be 2:30. That feels like we know that, or that, that midday spot that traditionally has been on CBS and now goes to ESPN.
Yeah.
The thing that we don't know is whether or not ESPN views 2:30 or say 7 o'clock as for itself the right time. I don't know.
That's a great point. Do they think like CBS thought? CBS has a rep of being an old person's network, and their prime time spot was that 2:30. We've been trained that way for so long. We'll see how that changes.
Because CBS would move some of its biggest games to prime time,
right,
instead of that 2:30 spot. So there's no getting away from the fact that TV networks still believe prime time is, in a best case scenario, the best place to put those games. So interesting stuff. Again, the main takeaway is Arkansas, but
boy, that's a salty group of hogs now. They are going to be pissed off, but at least they're pissed off in the morning. That is exactly where you want to get that game to kick off. That is brilliant stuff. All right. We started with a little bit of recruiting stuff. Texas, be on the lookout. Texas could be looking at commitment number 11 in the 2025.
By the way, was it? Let me see if I can see it. There's been a lot of chats in the specs chat. Maybe it's just too far back and it's not worth. Okay, never mind. Somebody had mentioned that another network had confirmed what we reported with regards to a commitment, and okay. I wasn't looking for confirmation, but we were like, this isn't like us teasing you. We had a strong sense that something's, the thing is, I guess it comes down to this, because I understand the tease. But if we didn't mention it at all, and then there's a commitment, it just looks like we didn't know what we were doing. It's like you guys did that whole House Divided show and didn't mention that Ketch had already written an instant analysis piece and expected to use it today. And so, we're caught between a rock and a hard place, and we've decided we'll be transparent and just let you know that we are anticipating a commitment, and we'll go from there. So, Chad, you want to get into this defensive tackle conversation?
Yes, we were definitely going to do that. Also, before we do, I got to give you your flowers before we get into the defensive tackles, but I do want to hear this homework you've done on the defensive tackle position. If you want to get into the specs chat, we're almost at 500. We appreciate your support. Remember,
we got a super chat, Chad. We got a super chat.
I like it. Like, subscribe, get those notifications. If you get us a super chat, watch what's going to happen. Boom! It goes right to the front of the line. $9.99 from Jefferson. Great name, Jefferson Dumas. Jefferson Dumas. $9.99, maybe Dumas. But hook 'em, boys. What's your guys' opinion on the Florida game? Live near Gainesville. Been waiting for years to see the Horns blow out the Gators. Final score predictions. You guys kick ass. And an emoji. Thank you, Jefferson.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
I don't know what to think of the Florida game, if I'm being completely honest. It's in Austin, so I'm assuming that Texas will win that game because I expect Texas to be really good. The jury's kind of out on Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. What is Florida? When by the time that game, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chad, but by the time that game gets played, we may have an idea on what Florida's coaching situation could look like and how committed are they to who they have right now. It's a curious one. I don't know that I would rank it. It's not in my top 5 most difficult games on the schedule, but it's probably maybe 6. If I were to rank the degree of difficulty on the schedule, I'm going Georgia 1, on the road at Michigan 2, Oklahoma, actually A&M on the road 3, Oklahoma neutral field 4, and then I've always had Arkansas penciled in as in the 5 spot, that I just have so much respect for what that game can be. And then I'd probably go Georgia 6. And then I don't know that the rest of the games are worth ranking.
Florida 6, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. You said Georgia just did. All right. Yeah. By the way, Jefferson is thinking, you knew he had to have a prediction. He's thinking 35-14 on that.
That's not crazy. Texas, Jefferson, Texas could kick their ass. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Jefferson at this point, I'll go with like a 31-20, 31-23 Texas wins, something like that.
We also saw Texas play close games last season too. We can't forget that because they went to the playoffs, that there weren't close games against Houston or close games against Boy, was there a close game against Kansas State? Or, there were a number of games that were closer than the final results of the season would probably make you think. The Wyoming game goes to the fourth quarter. And Chad and I were like, it's tied. What do we say?
I was not blinking a lot that night. I guarantee you, we were freaking out for Texas on that one. Another one of the chatters says, "Don't sleep on Florida." Seriously, Sandman throwing in some thoughts. Yeah. So thank you for that super chat. That's how it works. You get the super chat, put a little money in the old tip jar, and it goes right to the top of the list. We do appreciate you there. We also appreciate all of our great partners. Let's hear from AV Consultations. They got great setups for you. You're going to see some of the setups here in the spot. And then I'm going to give Ketch his love, and then Ketch is going to tell you about the kind of love Alfred Collins is getting right now. Don't move.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations. Today's home electronics can be a bit daunting. My company has spent the last 36 years making sure they are not. For those of you who have not experienced our services yet, we'd like to invite you to give us a try for all your home electronics needs. We carry all the major brands of televisions and stereo equipment at prices you can't find in stores. And we come to you. There's no need to leave your home to find great pricing and incomparable service. No traffic, inexperienced sales geeks, or pushy showroom tactics. We believe in having some fun and dreaming big. You have a dream for your home entertainment? Let us know. We can make it come true. And we are always there to help after the job is done. We cultivate clients for a lifetime by treating everyone like their family. No, not those family members. I'm talking about the ones you actually like. So relax, hug your kids, make love to your wife, and smile. Then, when you have a moment, give us a call at 255-8678. That's 512-255-8678. Or online at avconsultations.com.
All right, Mr. Ketchum, before we go any further, you need your flowers on something. You need a volleyball clap, and I'm going to give it to you. Not enough people.
I have no idea. What did I do?
Not enough people thank the boss. It's a thankless job. You do a hell of a job. Hell, you're keeping me from having to get a real job. But that's not why you get the flowers, Jeff Ketchum.
You get the volleyball clap for keeping you out of Walmart.
That's the first part. That's the first part. That's all. I could do that every day if I wanted to. If I wanted to, I could do that every day. But today, it's about your keen eye and your keen memory. Somebody pointed out after reading through your 10 thoughts from the weekend that you saw something and remembered something that I know I had forgotten about, and a lot of other folks did. When we think about logos going on football fields and jerseys and stuff, there are things that come to mind. I know Anwar has thrown up this image this week to remind people about, like, sometimes the logos pop up. But Jeff Ketchum is the one that reminds us that this is also a logo from the world of sports. Catch, all credit to you for reminding us that in Rocky 1, not 3, not 4, Rocky 1, the original, Rocky walked to the ring to fight Apollo with a sponsor on his back. I had totally forgotten that.
Probably got a couple $100 out of the deal.
Oh my God. Shamrock meets Hey Yo Adrian. Volleyball clap for Jeff Ketchum. Well done. Well done. You are as into movies and can reference them just as much as I can't. Like, you have seen the movies as much as I haven't seen them. So I appreciate you noticing that. That'll make me feel better when I see a logo on a football field.
All I'm saying is it's been happening for a long time. That we clutch our pearls and say, oh my God, the commercialization of sports. What are we going to do? Man, Rocky walked out, and that movie came out in 76.
Yep.
So that would have been recorded in 75. That was almost 50 years ago.
Yep. Hey, Brad throws in another one, right? Chico's bail bonds. Exactly. We've talked about little league teams. Like, little league teams are a great example of how the sponsorship works.
I kind of love the idea that people will clutch their pearls at 18 to 22-year-olds kind of being sold out commercially, but nobody cares about the damn kids. It's like Michael Jordan's fuck them kids.
Yeah.
The only way that league can exist is Chico's bail bonds paid for the uniforms, and nobody was like, whoa. I'll pay it because I want the purity of baseball to exist. No, put Chico's bail bonds on the back and pay the bills. We were okay with it with the Bad News Bears in the late 70s. But in 2024, God forbid, there's a Lamborghini patch on the Texas uniform. It just cracks me up.
Just so bizarre. So bizarre. All right. So I wanted to give you your love there.
Real quick, because Chad, nobody, when that movie came out, I remember watching the Bad News Bears when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I never once heard anybody watch that movie and say, damn shame what they did to them kids, making them wear uniforms with sponsors on the back. Like, that's never happened.
No, not one day.
Not one time did an adult ever say, I hate where they've made baseball go.
Yeah, the only reason people felt
ruining baseball by putting sponsors on the back of Little League shirts.
They just felt bad for those kids once they saw who the coach was. They thought that, Coach whatever his name was, Coach, what was his name? Moneymaker? Brubaker? What was it?
Not Moneymaker. No, not the poker player. Buttermaker.
Buttermaker. That's right. There you go. That was the issue in that movie.
Get Chris Moneymaker on your brain.
Coach Moneymaker. There it is. By the way, how about this random chat? I love it. From Brent. I just delivered 2 pallets of Gatorade to Jenny Finch. She's still effing amazing. Yeah. Solid. Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. So let's get into a little bit of D-tackle stuff. This came out of something you saw on PFF, correct?
Yeah. I wonder if we're going to have enough time to fully let this marinate, but we'll do it now. We'll do it now. I don't even know how good it is. I just think it's funny. Continue.
Okay, I was going to say we can hold off till tomorrow. You did the homework. You can tell me how much it's
I just don't know that if we do a show tomorrow that we're any more likely at 12:40 to be in the same position. So let's do it. And if I can extrapolate more from it, we'll follow up on it.
So here's the discussion. This is about it's a D-tackle position, which we've talked a lot about in recruiting, and it's so important in the games itself. And this is about D-tackles returning to the SEC. So obviously a big focus. If you are a Texas fan, you're headed into the SEC and you got to tackle and you got to stop run and you're losing 2 big dog D tackles in the draft. So Ketch and I were having the conversation and he told me that Alfred Collins was on this list that he saw of the highest graded D tackles coming back in the SEC. So let's dig in.
And I know this because Alfred Collins was putting it all over his socials.
Okay, Alfred Collins, and why wouldn't you brag about that, right? If you're on this list, that's pretty cool. So let's talk about where Alfred ends up. So this was ultimately it's a top 10 list, correct?
Of course.
Yes, you got to have a top 10, and we do have the graphic. We'll put it all up for you once we get into this a little bit. But Alfred Collins ends up, what, 3 in this top 10?
Yes.
Man.
It's kind of wild, Chad. I came away with several takeaways.
Okay.
The first of which, when you put the list up, because I need to talk you out through this.
Okay, here we go. Here is the list. It's according to PFF, and again, minimum 250 snaps.
So you've got Florida's Joey Slackman, who's a transfer from the Ivy Leagues. Deion Walker's a really good player. So him being at the top of the list, he was first team All SEC a year ago. He's good.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then there's Alfred Collins. And then there's a host of names, South Carolina, Georgia, you run the gamut. Is there anything about that list that jumped out to you for who's not on it? Did anything jump out to you?
Yes. I was expecting Walter Nolan's name.
No Walter Nolan.
Little surprising to me that I didn't see Walter Nolan. Another list that I saw today, Catch, was PFF's best returning interior lineman. This is from back in March or April, I think. Best interior lineman in the whole country. And they only had 2 out of their 10 were SEC. It was Walker and the cat from South Carolina, and Walter Nolan was honorable mention on their list. But I was surprised not to see Nolan.
So, look, Nolan's, of all of the guys in the SEC right now, he's the highest rated NFL prospect, at least at this moment. What's really interesting is they've got a guy from Georgia on their top 10. Do you see it?
Warren Brinson
is not a better player than Nazir Stackhouse, who was a consensus second team All SEC player last season. So best interior defensive lineman for Georgia. The SEC media and coaches both put him as a second team all defensive tackle, but he's not on this list. Neither is Walter Nolan. So,
because they're just going on pure data here, right? This is highest graded. This is not an opinion for PFF.
Correct.
Yeah.
The problem is you don't know who's doing the grading.
Right.
And the guy that graded Joey Slackman from Florida probably didn't grade Walter Nolan at Texas A&M. So when they put these scores up here, you just when Alex says Pro Football Focus is cockamamie, they've got a top 10 list where the 2 best NFL prospects in the conference aren't on the list. Mm-hmm. Because Walter Nolan should be on the list. And quite frankly, Walter Nolan's stats last year, if you went through the entire list, he had 37 tackles, 8.5 tackles for loss, and 4 sacks. From a production standpoint, much better than most of the guys on this list.
Right. And I'm assuming he had the 250 required snaps. I know DJ Durkin's a maniac, but I'm assuming he got him 250 snaps, right?
Yeah, because he started 10 of 12 games, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Warren Brinson, the guy from Georgia, had 21 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. Basically, Nolan doubles that production, but Brinson's at 5 and Nolan doesn't make the list, and it's because Brinson's got a 79.1 grade. And if you look at Walter Nolan, he had a 72.5 at A&M. And I just don't know what any of these grades mean.
Yeah. And again, let me throw this back up so I'm understanding you. What you're telling everybody is that Joey Slackman, the guy at the top, and that 90.5, even though we recognize that logo next to him, you're telling us he transferred from an Ivy League school.
No,
correct?
He was the Ivy League Defensive Player of the Year last year.
Okay, so all of the numbers that they're using to get that 90.5, he did that against Ivy League competition while Alfred Collins was facing Bama and Tuscaloosa, Oklahoma, etc. And Walter Nolan was facing whatever schedule the Aggies had last year, Miami and Bama and Auburn and everybody else, LSU. But Slackman ends up with the best grade.
Because he performed really well against Yale and Harvard.
Okay.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. So he's number one on this list.
Okay, busted up Brown is what you're telling me. All right, fair enough.
But here's the other thing, okay?
Okay.
And I think if I'm a Texas fan, this is the part that you want to bookmark. And I will probably write about this later in the week. I need to do a little more homework because it could just be that Pro Football Focus is cockamamie.
Alex might be right.
Because there's also no Alabama names on the list. And Alabama has 2 returning starters coming back and Tim Keenan III, who started at nose tackle for them in every game. And then Tim Smith started 10 of 14 games last season. I mean, they were starters on playoff teams. So
yeah, they were.
It might be. And I've looked at, so I want to go through the big boy teams and see who all is returning that may have been left out. But if we can acknowledge, okay, Pro Football Focus, little cockamamie, they literally don't have Nazir Strickland on the list, or Stackhouse, excuse me, when he was an all SEC player a year ago. They don't have Walter Nolan, and they don't have either guy from Alabama.
Yeah.
But if you look at this list, all of these guys read like, let me read you. Here's the exercise. Okay. Alfred Collins last year started 6 of 14 games. He was honorable mention all Big 12, which, that's not really worth a lot, but he was. Yeah. He recorded 22 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. So 6 starts, 22 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Pick any name from that. I feel like I'm doing one of those. Remember that guy that was on Hard Knocks with the Jets? And he's like, pick a card. And then pick any name that you want to. We've not done this in advance. Pick any name.
Okay, let's pick the guy that's pictured there. Let's go with Walker, the one slot.
Don't pick Walker because he's a badass.
Don't pick Walker. Okay.
So he's the only guy. Look, Walker was a first-team All-SEC player a year ago.
Okay, then since it's me, I've got to pick a guy named Tonka Hemingway.
Okay.
Let's go with the guy right underneath.
I told you to pick anybody, and then you picked the one guy that I forgot. You shouldn't pick that guy.
Oh,
so
I shouldn't pick him either? Okay.
No, you can pick. No, I'm sorry. Deion Walker was the name that I should have clarified.
Okay.
That guy's a total badass. He was first team all SEC. He was 8th in the SEC in sacks. Like, Deion Walker's good. In no world should Joey Slackman be ranked ahead of Deion Walker, and yet Alfred Collins' grade is right next to Walker's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Tonka Hemingway. Great name. He started 5 of 12 games, 32 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks. It reads the same.
Yeah, very similar.
You picked pick another one. Pick another guy.
How about the OU dude, Terry?
There you go, Deion Terry. He started 4 of 13 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
18 tackles, 4 tackles for loss and a sack. The sack was against Texas. But again, not a full-time starter and not numbers that are going to make you think anything at all. If OU fans said, oh, yeah, we didn't even need this guy because we've got Deion Terry. And, oh, by the way, where is the guy from TCU that just transferred to Oklahoma? Why isn't he on? I got to look and see what PFF had him graded because he's also not in this top 10. And OU may have paid $1 million for that guy. but the common theme is that, and Warren Brinson, the Georgia guy listed, who's not the best player at his position on the Georgia team, because Warren Brinson only started 4 games last season. And he also was like 21 tackles, 3 tackles for loss. My point is, it doesn't seem like very many teams have great players at defensive tackle that some years are stronger than others. And while there are some badass names that aren't on this list, maybe like 2 or 3, the overall scope of the SEC, Chad, at this position would seem to indicate that Texas is probably at least in good a shape as every team not named Kentucky, because Kentucky's got probably the best player in the SEC in the interior line at Deion Walker. But everybody else got a bunch of guys that kind of started last season, didn't produce big numbers, don't come in with high profiles. Again, it's my way of saying that however we would rank Texas amongst teams in the SEC among the defensive tackle position, I doubt that there's more than 2 or 3 teams that we would look at and say they're definitely better than Texas. And we think that that's probably the biggest weak spot on this roster right now.
Yeah, I think where the cockamamie discussion can come in here, to use Alex's word, is how based on the numbers you just threw out, you can use the math and the grading to kind of make your argument. It feels like what that list is, Catch, is maybe other than the Kentucky guy, it's the highest graded returning guys to the SEC that have had a decent amount of playing time, that have had, and this is how we're kind of rating those guys. Because if you think about it, if you're telling me there's a guy on Georgia's team that a lot of people think are better, he's more highly rated. Well, guess what? He's also got more starts, more snaps, and he's being graded on more of, he's taken more tests. He's taken tougher tests than that other guy. So he gets graded ultimately differently. We're just going to have to see, I think. Your comment earlier about needing to dig in a little more is probably fair. But again, I saw a best returning interior lineman list, and there were only 2 SEC guys on it and an honorable mention. So
I just don't know that this is a year in the SEC where Texas isn't we know Texas isn't where it wants to be at defensive tackle. They can't get enough transfers. So, it speaks for itself. I just don't know that if you look across the rest of the conference, that Texas should find itself in envy of more than a couple of teams. Georgia, Kentucky, because of the one guy that Kentucky has. By the way, if you're wondering, Dominic Williams, the reason why he's not on this list, PFF gave him a 69.0 grade, which is lower than everybody on this top 10 list. It's lower than Nazir Stackhouse, who they didn't put on the list. It's lower than Walter Nolan's. It's Dominic Williams, who just went to Oklahoma, would rank no higher than 15th or 16th, according to PFF's grading system among defensive tackles in the SEC. I think this is a cockamamie list. Right. But in finding out that it's a bit cockamamie, and maybe you shouldn't go run and tell all your friends that Alfred Collins is the 3rd best defensive tackle returning in the SEC. Right. I think the thing is, you're not going to play a lot of people who are better than you at this position. So it just puts, I think, this idea of the Texas need in some proper perspective, that, they don't have what they want, but I don't know that any team in the SEC outside of 1 or 2 does. Although I would say A&M is still pretty loaded at defensive tackle, and none of their guys made the list.
I know. That was the other thing, obviously, that was jumping out to me. I thought I'd see Nolan, and I thought maybe I'd see an A&M name or 2, and I didn't.
Because they've got good defense. So I don't know. The more this goes on, it's like, if I put together a top 10 list of defensive tackles in the SEC that didn't make the list, it would be better than the list that they put out. So, I don't want to pile on PFF, but maybe Alex's cockamamie comments that he says once or twice a day, maybe he's not wrong. Because
I'll give you a quick comparison. You mentioned Dominic Williams. Think about it. If you and I both broke down every snap Dominic Williams had last year at TCU against that competition, and everything Slackman did against his Ivy League competition, and then we took all that information to a bunch of coaches and said, which guy do you want?
Exactly.
I think we know what the answer is going to be. I think they'd take Williams. That's just my gut. I think
that who would you draft if you could take anybody list? I think the order of that list probably goes Walker from Kentucky, who, to be fair, they do have him second on the list. So, you know, at least they placed that one right. I think Nolan probably goes second. I mean, he really is projected to be a first-round draft pick. And then I think Nazir Stackhouse from Georgia, who's not on the list but was an all-SEC player. And again, it wasn't an accident. Both the coaches and the media both had him second team all-SEC. At that point, once you get beyond those three, is it the Alabama guys? Is it Dominic Williams? Is it Alfred Collins?
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I think any of those could be the correct answer. And it just goes back again to the larger point that I think for me stands out, which is the more you dig around at the defensive tackle position, the more you'll realize that whatever ails Texas from a roster component standpoint, it doesn't exist in a lot of places in the SEC. There's just not going to be very many schools that Texas will play that they'll say, man, if we could, we'd trade ours for theirs. They just wouldn't. And for as much consternation that has existed over, can they get Dominic Williams? They should have gone out and got Walter Nolan. I don't know that they're in discernibly worse shape than anybody else. And I don't know. I'm going to have to do some homework. The other thing is that Alabama's got a couple of returning starters, but nobody thinks that they're first-round draft picks. I don't even think anybody thinks that they're second-round draft picks. They weren't all SEC a year ago. What the hell's going on at Alabama? Because I think they go into this season with even less hype on their players at that position than Texas does. Whatever Alfred Collins is, he comes in with a little bit of a rep. He had a Senior Bowl invite. He was honorable mention all Big 12. These guys, as far as I could tell in their bios, and I don't even know if the SEC does an honorable mention. I couldn't find it. So it's not apples to apples, kind of like the kid that's at Florida being in the number one spot based off of grades while playing against Brown or Harvard. But I'm optimistic. I'm more optimistic for Texas in the interior of the defensive line today than I have for most of the offseason, because I've looked around at the rest of the SEC and none of these guys were making me think, oh, man, if only that guy had entered the portal instead of the two Arizona defensive tackles. Like it's just there's not a long list of guys that you would definitely take over what Texas has. And I don't think we've thought about the defensive tackle position through that lens much in the offseason.
By the way, before we get to a couple other things, great chat from comment from Brad. Facts are stubborn, but statistics are more pliable. Mark Twain. That's a good one. That's a good one, Brad. I like that one. Yeah, we'll keep our eyes on that and a lot of other things as we get towards SEC time. Could just be the truth that when we talk about how hard it is for Texas to find good D tackles, it's not just hard for Texas. It's hard for everybody to find good D tackles. All right, Catch, before we go any further, why don't you tell the good folks about Rogue Shop? Because I know they always deliver, whether you're at the top of the list or at the bottom of the list, or maybe you didn't even make the list.
Dude, not only do they deliver, it comes in the most beautifully packaged package that you probably like. It makes me want to be a better wrapper of Christmas presents, because when they send it, it's so well put together that it makes me, and I enjoy how well it's put together, that it makes me think I should do that for other people, that if they were getting presents that are as prepared and packaged as well as Rogue Shop does their stuff, it makes the present feel better. Look, that's what Rogue Shop does. They make you feel better. Stress, anxiety, pain. You're not sleeping well at night. There's a little bit of everything at the website. Use that QR code. Go to rogueshop.com. If you're a little unsure, there's a little chat that will pop up, and you can talk to somebody who can help you through. Hey, I'm having some. I could use some stuff for sleep. What do you have? What do you recommend? It's going to make your life better. They make your life better. How many products do we take in any given day where we can say that about them? They make it better, and they do it pretty easily. So go to rogueshop.com again or scan that QR code and don't waste any more time. Make your life a little bit better today with some Rogue Shop.
There you have it. All right, Catch, you want to do a little buy or sell this afternoon?
Let's do it. I sometimes say that an excuse is nothing more than the reason why something happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any questions in the system today.
Okay.
Because I was worried that if I go back to captions and start putting them in, that I would crash the show.
I see. Okay.
And I did. I came early today. I was.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I was ready to put all of my questions. Anyway, I'm going to have to wing it. I'll go first. I'll go first and hope that I'm not completely, I don't know. I'll go first.
Okay.
I don't want to steal your questions, but buy or sell number 1, Alfred Collins, top 5 defensive tackle in the SEC based on what I've showed you so far today.
It's got to be a sell. There's got to be 5 other guys to me. I get what the numbers speak to, but there's a lot of variables in there. I'm going to sell. Alfred proved me wrong. Can't wait to see what 95 does this year, but there've got to be 5 better than him going in based on snaps and productivity and everything. There's got to be 5 others.
Take that, cockamamie PFF.
Come on.
Buy or sell number 2, your confidence meter in a game 3 win for the Mavericks in the finals at home. It's at least at a 7. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'll buy that. I'll buy the 7 part. Back at home, it's obviously the game. I mean, I've got to win that one. You can't go down 3-0. We talked about how tough it is to deal with 2-0, but 3-0 is, ultimate history. So, yeah, I'll put it at a 7 out of 10. The crowd will be crazy, and you would assume Luka and most importantly, Kyrie can dial it in. Kyrie's going to figure out how to play in Boston, but I think he'll be okay in Dallas.
Buy or sell number 3. I'm just curious. Your wife is still keeping up with Caitlin Clark on the regular.
Buy. Now, she's not watching hunks of games as much, but is she following along with what's going on? Yes. And she still has little reminders pop up on the phone to tell her when games are happening. Yes.
By the way, I just found out that Phillies catcher JT Realmuto just had knee surgery and they had to put him on the DL. Come on, man. I feel like a Braves fan. Can we stop having our guys get hurt left and right?
Yeah. Dude. Yeah, those are bad.
I feel like we're filled in a DL all-star team at this point. I'm sorry. I got a little off topic. I literally just, in spanning for a buy or sell question, I came across a headline that directly, they just lost the best catcher in baseball, arguably. It's
Yeah, as you said, I'm a Braves fan. My heart is crushing for you right now.
Luckily, I think we've got a 9-game lead. I need to check and see where that thing's busted up to, but somewhere along the way, we just kind of got away from you guys. Buy or sell number 4. Daytime SEC games are fun. Don't worry, Longhorn fans. You'll enjoy them.
Oh, absolutely buy. Absolutely buy. Because when you get into that 2:30, 3 o'clock window, it's so much better than an 11 a.m. You get a little bit of your day before. You got stuff going on afterwards. You're not out too late. And most importantly, you got to remember, as you'll see with that early season stuff, they push some of those SEC network games to evening. And like you talked about earlier, there's that flex. I think we're going to see both the Georgia game and the A&M game go to those later kicks, like maybe as late as even 7 p.m. I think Texas fans will love it. And like I've said, lock in Texas OU 2:30 for the rest of our lives. It's going to be fine. And
finally, buy or sell number 5. This is a variation of the hotter than.
Mm-hmm.
This is a you'd rather be game.
Okay.
Buy or sell. If we took Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and you could be either of those two guys, you'd rather be Paul Newman than Robert Redford. I realize you haven't seen all of their movies, but you know their guys, you know their reputation, you know who they were. If you had to pick between being Paul Newman or Robert Redford, you would go with Paul Newman because while Redford is better looking, Newman is cooler.
Boy, this is really a can't lose prospect, isn't it?
You're going to be one of like the sexiest movie stars among men
Right.
of all time. Who are you choosing?
Boy, you really can't lose here. But ultimately, I think you broke it down correctly. I would go with Newman. The reaction that women have to Robert Redford is amazing to watch. Like, I've watched women react to like the old Robert Redford, where I'm like,
no, it's a hell of a thing to be like in your 70s and women are still telling you that you can get it, you know.
But I'm a sports fan, and therefore, and I have seen Slapshot a few times, and it's one of the best sports movies out there. And Newman is so damn good in that movie. I'll go Paul Newman. Yeah, I'll go with Paul Newman. It's close though. You can't lose on that. So it's a good can't lose, buy or sell. I like it.
Can I give you a hot take?
Sure.
This is one for all the olds out there. The kids. This is not for the kids.
Ooh, Steve McQueen. Man.
Steve McQueen is overrated.
Ooh.
I have not yet seen a Steve McQueen performance that's made me get the fuss. I don't get it. I don't get Steve McQueen. I don't get it. I've probably seen a half dozen Steve McQueen movies. Just okay.
Catch. Guess how many movies I've seen with Steve McQueen in it?
None.
None is the answer. None.
Is there a chance that you've seen a Steve McQueen movie and just don't know it?
I guess there's a chance. I'd need to go look at the list. I'll go double check that list. And I'll check the Robert Redford and Paul Newman list for you to figure out exactly how many of those I've seen, so you can officially.
Now, I will admit I've not seen Bullet.
Yeah.
So that's one of the like him in a car movies.
Yeah. I'll go do that count for you. Yeah.
But the rest, maybe I need to go and watch some more Steve McQueen movies, but I just don't get it. I don't understand what all of the olds out there see in Steve McQueen.
That is crazy. All right, halfway through buy or sell. Before we get to my buy or sell, why don't I tell you about sinus and snoring specialists? If you are going through allergy hell, you need to get out of it. This is the place that can help you. They helped me back in 2017. They can get rid of those allergies for good. They do a test where they test you for 50 different allergies at once. There's no needles involved, so you don't have to freak out about that. Find out what you're ultimately allergic to. They create these special allergy drops that are designed just for you. Again, not a cookie cutter situation here. It's designed for the stuff that bothers you. Like for me, I can't be around real Christmas trees. That's one of the things that has bugged me since I was a little kid. And when I told them that, they were able to put that into the drops along with cedar and some of the other specific things, ragweed and some of those in the area that bother everybody. So I was able to get rid of those allergies, and I've been feeling good and sleeping good and breathing good ever since 2017. That whole process with the allergies takes about 3 years, and then your body develops the defenses, and you are good to go. There's your QR code. Go check them out. Tell them you heard about it here on Orange Bloods Live. They've been one of our great partners since the early days of Orange Bloods Live, and we do appreciate them. Sinus and snoring specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. All right, Catch, here we go. We will start with some Longhorn recruiting for you. Buy or sell number one. Outside of DeCorian Moore committing this weekend, the two big dogs that could really get the momentum going for Texas would be Riley Pettyjohn and Lamont Rogers.
Oh, sell.
Okay.
So I think Fasusi's got to be one of the two.
Fasusi's not visiting this weekend.
Oh, you said of the guys visiting this weekend.
Sorry, I didn't make that clear on the second part. Let's just keep it to the ones coming in this weekend, because all three of those guys are in that group.
I mean, Pettyjohn. I tell you what, go to buy or sell number two.
Okay.
And let me just think through the rest of the question, what I think the actual answer to that is.
Gotcha. All right, we'll circle back around. Buy or sell number two, Boston and Florida are both up 2-0 in their final series, but you think one of them loses the series? Asking for a friend.
Buy. What the hell? I have the Mavs in 6. I'm not backing down yet. I know it looks a little unlikely, but no, I'm going to still believe it. And you know what? I still believe in the Oilers too. So I'm not only going to buy, I'm going to double buy. Both teams that are down 2-0 right now will come back and win this series. How's that for a hot take?
You're speaking on behalf of all network executives out there trying to hope these series turn around. All right, Catch, let's go to the hardwood for number 3. Diana Taurasi turns 42 years old today. She has 3 WNBA titles. Candace Parker also has 3. You think Caitlin Clark will get at least 3?
So, her team sucks right now. So,
yeah, they're terrible.
I'm going to sell.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know if you caught it last night. They had an interview with Caitlin Clark out in the hallway. She had just gotten out of the shower, hair's wet, no makeup, barely. Let's do a t-shirt on. That girl is so exhausted right now, Catch. The schedule they're putting them through is historically bizarre in terms of how much they're making them play. They barely have time to have any practices at all. She is so worn out right now. It is crazy. All right, Catch, let's go to another birthday. Buy or sell number 4, Peter Dinklage, 55 years old today. You think Game of Thrones is better, but House of the Dragon is worth watching.
Oh, bye. I love House of the Dragon, but it's not Game of Thrones. But it falls into the category of, well, what if you could have some Game of Thrones or no Game of Thrones at all? I really like House of the Dragon. I'm looking forward to it picking back up this weekend. Yeah, I'm in. Team Black, baby. Team Black.
What if I did this? What if I said House of the Dragon better than Better Call Saul?
Oh, sell.
Okay, so it ain't
Better
that
Call
kind
Saul
of
is going to be remembered as one of the great TV shows of all time. I don't know that that's what House of the Dragon is. I mean, if I had to choose one of the two, I would go Better Call Saul.
Gotcha. All right. House of the
I'm
Dragon.
actually in the middle of a Better Call Saul rewatch. I'm in season 1 right now.
Good for you.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is. It's a great, great show. Speaking of great shows, or this would be a great movie, let's go to number 5. Catch. Gene Wilder would have been 91 years old today. Rest in peace. If you could rewrite history and cast Richard Pryor as the sheriff in Blazing Saddles as Mel Brooks intended, you'd do it and never look back.
I love how that's the question that came out of Gene Wilder's birthday.
Right, because we love Gene Wilder. A lot of people love Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor together, but it's a situation where we didn't get to see it. I'm asking you, would you go back and put them together in that movie too?
So,
and
I'll tell you why. Because Cleavon Little, because the lead character in the movie is so good.
Okay, so
I don't know that Richard Pryor is doing a better job than Cleavon Little in that role. Now, yeah, I just don't. There's where Richard brings the edginess, Cleavon Little brings a coolness to that character that really comes off in every, I can in my head see Richard Pryor reacting to the things that happen. It would have been very good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm imagining Richard Pryor's facial reaction when he walks up to the little old lady and meets her in the street and just says hello to her. His facial acting could have been really funny, but I think on the whole, I'm going to stick with Little.
All right, fair enough.
Good question, though. Good question.
Thank you. So if you just tuned in, Jeff Ketchum thinks the movie executives were right, and Mel Brooks had no idea what he was doing with Blazing Saddles.
It's not quite what I said. I said it still would have been, I think, really good with him in that role. I just think Little, having seen him do the whole movie, I think I just have an appreciation for the totality of that performance, and I'm giving him some benefit of the doubt.
Also,
I could be wrong, though.
Yeah. Also, Catch. Unsung performance from Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor as the balloon salesman in the Muppet movie. We just saw that in the theater. Oh, chef's kiss. Beautiful. I forgot about Richard Pryor's performance in that movie. Fantastic. But happy birthday to Gene Wilder today. I need to do a rewatch on the original Willy Wonka. When's the last time you said? No?
I don't like that movie. I've never liked that movie.
So does that mean you didn't see the redo with what's his name?
I heard it was pretty good.
It's actually really good.
And I saw I've probably seen the last 20 minutes of that movie because my kids like watching it.
Yeah.
So I've seen more. I've seen more of the newer movie than I have of the old one going back like 30 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
My kids haven't seen the original. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the new one made me want to go back and check that one out. I need to do that at some point. All right, let me scan the chats here. Make sure we aren't missing a super chat. Although we did get a chat that started with an interesting phrase, and now
We're just never going to keep it under an hour.
No, you talk. I never like to say it to you when you say that. You always say like, "Hey, we'll keep it under an hour. We need to keep this to fit." It just, I know deep down it's not going to happen, but I don't want to say that to you at that point because I don't want to make you feel bad. But
thank you.
It's just.
By the way, did you ever see the movie Stir Crazy with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder?
By my rules, no. Have I seen about 15 or 20 minutes of it randomly? Yes. Have I seen the whole movie, sit down, start to finish? No. Because I was the wrong age when that movie hit. Like my parents wouldn't let me sit and watch it.
My mom took me, that movie came out in 1980.
Yeah, see.
Its release date was December 12th, 1980. My mom took me into the theater to see Stir Crazy at the age of 4.
That's awesome. That is,
because I definitely remember seeing it in the theater.
Dude, that is so wonderful and wrong at the same time. Phil says, "Are you not entertained? The buy or sell is often the best part of the hour." Phil, we appreciate it. Thank you. We're glad somebody thinks that. At least we enjoy it. We hope the rest of you. That's what we hope. Let me check these ones I had pinned here. You know what? Let's circle back around real quick before we close it up. Guy says, love commitment days. Again, keep your ear to the ground throughout the day as a possibility of number 11 commitment coming through. And if it happens by, 4 o'clock, or maybe it's not happened and there's still discussion, check out the modcast today at 4 here on Orange Bloods Live. The fellows will keep you updated on if an 11th commit happened and get you the reaction show if it did, or get you primed up for that if there is going to be a commitment at some point. I think I did that fine. And there we go. We got that one because Jenny Finch is still extremely attractive. We were glad to hear about that. And real quick, Catch, Eric wants to know if it's one of these two guys, who would benefit Texas more, Chester or Terry?
I mean, I have Terry rated as a super blue chip and one of the top 13 prospects in the state of Texas. So, collect super blue chips is always a good strategy as far as I'm concerned. So who would benefit us the most, us being Texas? Terry, for me, is the much higher rated prospect in a world where those are the only two guys that we're looking at in this situation. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying you said that. So between those two, it's got to be Michael Terry.
Yeah. And also, if you did not check out Jason Sukamel's 3-2-1 column yet on orangebloods.com, we would invite you to do that. There's your QR code if you want to do that. He goes through a few different things, including Michael Terry and his thoughts on what Texas discussed with him about usage. And if you're a Texas fan, the important part, his reaction to it was pretty positive as well. Seems to be a real team-oriented guy. So
I think the answer to your question, by the way, is Pettyjohn and Rogers.
Okay, that those are the two guys in the group.
I wasn't sure I was going to say that, but
okay,
yeah.
We'll just throw it back up. So ultimately, you would buy this. If one of those two guys were to come in, fall in love, Sark really makes an impression, and they commit coming out of this weekend, then that's a big momentum play.
Momentum? I don't know. I don't know that those guys create momentum. Okay. Pettyjohn could. I don't know that Lamont Rogers is. To me, he's a big-time offensive line prospect. So if you were drafting from guys coming in, I don't know how you would leave that guy off. But Pettyjohn, for me, is the clear number one behind Moore. And, yeah. Okay. It wouldn't shock me if Pettyjohn – I'm not anticipating it, but it wouldn't shock me if Pettyjohn committed to Texas shortly after the visit. The anticipation is that he will end up at Texas. And so they're the betting favorite. He's visiting Texas this weekend. That's not completely outside the realm, although I'm not anticipating it. And I think there's a sense that he'll take a little bit longer, but he comes to Austin this weekend with Texas as the heavy betting favorite.
Huge recruiting weekends coming up. Another reason why you need to check out the Modcast this afternoon at 4:00. Not just a possibility of a reaction show for a commit, but there are all those visits coming this next weekend, and then, of course, on the 21st as well. Thank you for liking and subscribing and getting your notifications for Orange Bloods Live. We appreciate you, and we got about 650 folks in there as we get ready to close the door. We appreciate you. Appreciate all of our great partners. Thanks to Specs for helping us with the chat, of course. And they've been doing that since damn near day one of Orange Bloods Live. Y'all have a good one. We'll be back tomorrow for a Wednesday show at high noon. Until then, we are